Good Wednesday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk. Thank you kindly for joining us, guys. We have a Central Virginia, Commonwealth country, and worldwide audience here on the I Love Seville Network. And on a Wednesday, we're presented by Ross Mortgage, our homie Scott Morris. Just an A-plus all-around stand-up guy, a man who delivers, a man you can count on, Scott Morris and Ross Mortgage. Today's show is going to be dynamite. We have so many data points to analyze today as we're at the middle point of essentially July in 2022. The year has absolutely flown by, and where we started the year to where we are currently are two very different marketplaces. We'll let the experts showcase how those marketplaces may be different here in a matter of moments. Judah Wickhauer is our director. If you could go to the studio camera. And then the three-shot, let's welcome Scott to the program and Taylor. Scott, my friend, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be here. It is a beautiful day outside. I think we're going to start getting hot here soon. But
super hot.
Yeah.
You got a C note on the horizon from a temperature standpoint.
Yeah. But again, it's great to be in the wonderful United States of America where we have air conditioning as opposed to Europe, who is getting
Germany
roasted right now.
That's right. They're throttling electricity in Germany. He's exactly right.
Yeah, it's a crazy world, bro.
You brought Taylor with you.
Yes, Taylor Averitte. We've got with us today. Taylor's an awesome dude overall, an incredible professional, and somebody who's got a great view of the market in general.
Taylor, introduce yourself to everybody that's watching.
Hey everybody, I'm Taylor Averitte. I'm a real estate agent with Nest Realty. Originally from the North Carolina area, Sand Hills, graduate of Chapel Hill, came to UVA for graduate school and fell in love with the area.
What'd you study in graduate school?
Commerce, McIntyre. They have a one-year program, kind of not quite an MBA, a little bit more involved than the undergraduate. You had to be a non-business major as an undergraduate, and decided, hey, need some direction in my life, need some business sense. Why not come up to the beautiful state of Virginia, get a little education, stuck around.
I love it. A Tar Heel and Wahoo country right here. How have you managed that?
Let me clarify something. Hold up.
Right? I was.
Let me clarify something about this. When I was at Chapel Hill, we were fans of UVA. The first week I was in Charlottesville, I was wearing a UNC t-shirt, somewhere in Barracks Road, I think. A Greek restaurant in Barracks Road.
Okay.
7-year-old lady comes up to me and tells me I have a lot of nerve.
Really?
I said, what are you talking about? We're fans of you. Only after I came here did I learn that UVA and UNC are apparently the oldest rivalry.
It's the South's oldest rivalry.
Forget that we have 3 built-in rivals in state about an hour from campus. Yeah. You know, apparently we're awesome rivals up here. But, you know, Tony Bennett was like a favorite son down there in Chapel Hill. So.
I love Taylor already. What is it about real estate you love, my friend?
It's the opportunity to get out and learn about your community, meet people in the community. Everybody's involved in housing. It doesn't matter if they're a doctor at the hospital or they're working at the local McDonald's. You're going to meet them. You're going to have substantive discussions with them about homes. Also, I'm just a super curious person about the local area. When I moved here, I used to just drive around to discover the area, and going through houses that you would never have the opportunity to go through. It's just incredibly interesting. And it's also afforded me the opportunity to think about housing in a completely different way.
How so?
Well, used to it was just sticks and bricks, kept you out of the rain. It was a total heart decision. The longer I've worked in the business, I've realized, especially now, it's not a hard decision anymore. It's a head and heart decision. Depends on where you are in the marketplace.
Where you are in the stage of life.
Where you are in the stage of life. I would agree with that too. And what the marketplace is doing. So prior to being in the business, I had no conception of that. And now I really enjoy talking to people about that, maybe bringing a perspective they don't have when they decide it's time to buy a house.
So why don't we talk market? Why don't we talk where we're at? Gentlemen, I'll get out of your way. You're the expert. Scott, anywhere you want to go?
So one of my questions for Taylor is what is driving the majority of your business now? So like one of the first questions I have for someone, like when we talk about it being a head decision, and me asking a borrower is, how long do you plan to be in the home? Because that's a huge portion of the decision-making process in not only what you're buying, also how you're going to finance it. What tools do I have that can make this more opportunistic for you, given the situation? Or like right now, for instance, I've got some young couples who are trying to get in and are very payment focus, and it's like, look, I cannot guarantee this, but I can confidently tell you that if we can shop at the top of your price point in 24 months, I will lower your payment. There's going to be a reprieve in rates, and if we're focused less, if you can get in where you're comfortable and we know that that number is going to go down at some point, would you be more comfortable making that decision? And the answer is unilaterally yes. Whereas, when rates were, when I was 2.625 with people, that is like, if you're going to pay points, I don't really see the purpose in it when they're this low. But if this is your forever home, let's go for, 2% flat and pay $14,000, and you're never, as long as you never sell the house, because it's never going away. You're going to be as low as you're ever going to be. And now I don't advise you to pay points because you're never going to make that money back.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Taylor? Great take, Scott.
Yeah, I agree completely. I have a lot of clients, like you said, who are incredibly payment focused, and I've had conversations with people who don't realize how little burning their liquidity actually gets them in payment differences. I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but about $10,000 of down payment is about $50 a month.
That approximately.
Approximately, right. I had clients who, this is a 2-year house, but we just feel like we have to get to a certain ratio of down payment. We're going to light $30,000 on fire. I'm never going to make that back in 2 years. So to piggyback off your point, I completely agree. It's a decision. It's a business decision. It's how much did you keep in reserves. It's does this make sense depending on how long you live in that house.
That's right in line with another question that I usually ask is, do you want to risk trapping this money in equity that then you have to pay to get out? And on top of that, it is. Some people get focused on this thing, just like when they pull a number out of the sky when they want to make an offer. It's like, well, have we tactically thought about what you're really asking for when you're saying, I want to come in 10,000 below ask and ask for closing costs, while we're starting to walk a little, like wade ankle deep into that at this point. It's starting to come back a little bit as we get more days on market. And it's like, well, what you're really asking them for is $20,000, not 10. So, let's think about how we're going about this if you really want to win. If you're just looking for a deal, we'll go out, make 1,000 offers. But if you're looking to win, let's put together what's going to put you in the best place. And
Good take. How's your business doing?
Honestly, it's pretty good.
This year too?
This year had the best spring I've ever had.
Wow.
It's definitely slowed down the last few weeks, but I think I've established well enough to keep maintaining. I'm not out there with 14 open contracts right now trying to get them to the closing table, but I am still meeting with clients on a weekly basis. I'm carrying some listings. I have buyers. Those buyers have been affected, but they're still in the game. So, I don't have any complaints as of yet. And also, it's just normal for this time of year. Every year, maybe except for the last few, especially 2020, July was a slower time. People go on vacation, the academic cycle's over. There's just not as many people in the market. I try to keep my clients from listing their houses in the middle of July because I don't want to accumulate those days on market. So I think the real indicator will be the fall. Are people still in the market at the fall? I always see a bump of business around September, October, November. I've been incredibly busy last December. And that's not the case normally for July. So we'll see. We could be at a false peak. We could be at a new market. But it's definitely changing a little bit, but it's not dead.
So the one thing that I'm going to have one of the better months I've had of the year in August.
You are? Mm-hmm. Nicely done.
But all of those people are making decisions based off of what I have said to everyone as far as life-based real estate transactions, where we need a bigger house because we've got kids and we've outgrown where we are. We want to refinance because we've got a home equity line of credit that adjusted up. We've got cars that need to be paid, and we've got credit cards. Can we capture? I know that rates aren't low comparatively, but can we capture all that in one payment and make our cash flow more attractive to us? And also, we want to put windows in our house, all of the, we're getting divorced. These are all things that create people are not going to stop living their lives because of what's going on in these non-controllables. It's our job as professionals to guide them and put them in the best place to make the best decisions under those circumstances.
Very nice, very nice. Do we talk this topic often on the show that this year is perhaps more comparable to 2019 than comparable to 2021 or even 2020
or 2018.
2018, yeah.
2018 was the last time rates were 5%, and now we're seeing a little reprieve today like this. And what I've been saying this whole time is we're in this tug of war between inflation and recession, and that's what's driving the bond market at the moment.
Do you see the comparison to 18 and 19, maybe specifically with as the inventory's coming on the market, people out of town on the summer? Because you put a house on the market in 2020, 2021. As Yonna Smith said on the show one time, even turkeys can fly in a hurricane. In 2020 and 2021, it didn't take a ton of skill to sell some houses because it was just an anomaly. Your thoughts on this topic?
The skill was capturing the business. If you were lucky enough to get the client or skilled enough to get the client, and I think that's both represented in the marketplace. As soon as you put it on the MLS, that was the end. 15 offers. It was then how good are you at advising your client?
Yeah.
Waiving contingencies.
There were times when I was working with buyers this year where I had to call them and say, this is actually probably a bad deal for you. It's going to come down to, is this a heart overhead decision for you? And it's not my job to tell you the answer to that, but just know I'm not advising you to take it at this price. You probably should go on to the next house.
What's the craziest thing you saw during COVID? Real estate wise.
There was a house in a neighborhood in town that it's an established neighborhood. It's the prices are generally between 5 and 6. This house, I thought, the interior was very nice. The exterior was 4 walls, just a box. I had a client. It was in the mid-5s. I had a client that I was working with who had great purchasing power. They decided, we'll offer $103,000 over asking price. And at that point, I thought I was getting a paycheck because I thought even with the way the market's going now, there's nothing to support any value higher than that. I got a call from the other agent and said, you're at least $50,000 too low. Yeah, you're at least $50,000 too low, and I have 2 people who are just writing carte blanche, like blank checks, who want this house. So I had to call my client and say, hey, do you want to go $155,000 over asking price? You may still lose at that price. At this point, we're 35% of the value of the house over asking price, and they didn't, and I think they made the right call.
Yeah, they made the right call.
And I had another house that in a suburb of Charlottesville where houses usually sit for quite some time. My clients had an appraisal done prior to listing the house, and they wanted to just list at the appraisal price. In years past, we could have had month on market. I think we have 15 offers in 2 days.
Wow.
Everything waived. I don't think we took the highest offer because the terms were just better. That one was crazy.
Yeah.
That one was crazy.
I'm blown away by those. And it's not just here. So in Northern Virginia, there's certain neighborhoods certain sections of neighborhoods fall into certain school zones and things, and that's probably the case here when you look at Western versus Albemarle and CHS. But and some of those, I had an agent go into an $800,000 property. They offered $1 million, and the listing agent, while they're in the house, hey, here's what we're going to do. And he's like, we're ratifying right now at greatly over that.
During the open house?
Not an open house, but during their showing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that is bananas. So do you guys like working? Well, I'll throw it to you, Taylor.
Sure.
Do you like working in a market like that?
Not particularly.
Yeah, no one does. I've asked that of all the agents. They all say no.
It depends on what side you're on. If I had 300 people who said, will you list my house today? Yeah, of course. I'm going to make a couple $1 million in a weekend. If you're working with buyers, no. I try to remain pretty business oriented, but I just get along with people that I work with for the most part. I had some clients in the Valley they had terrible purchasing power. Their loan type, they had a USDA loan type, and they had to ask for closing costs. In 2018, that's fine. We'll find you a house. If it's a second house, fine, but we can negotiate a little bit here. When you're dealing with clients with that purchasing power in this marketplace, especially if you have a genuine connection with them and you like them very much, you're having a difficult decision before you walk through the first house saying, hey, I need you guys to just stay completely unemotional. Envision yourself in this house enough to decide whether you want to live here, and then just forget about it. Because if there's 8 offers and you're asking for closing costs, the other 7 are not, and you're going to lose. And I said, you might be 15 offers in before you get lucky enough to find an empathetic seller who wants to work with you. And I think it was 12 or 13 offers that we made, and finally a seller said, and I think we just like your client. And they wanted to work with my client. But it's difficult on the buy side. Unless you've got cash buyers, you could have a cachet of 15 people and you're thinking, God, I'm gonna have to get lucky. It doesn't matter how skilled I am, if someone's willing to be stupid in the marketplace and just offer 40% of the asking price over, you're just not gonna lose. And you're not gonna be a good agent advising your client to do that. It's a real balance of, what's most important, getting them the house or doing a good job sometimes.
So from the listings that you have now, are you starting to see less cash? Because I feel like we went through a long period, even with rates low, where there was a ton of cash coming to the table, whether it was because they sold out of Northern Virginia and they're moving down, or whatever, or wherever that money came from. There were more cash offers than I think what the market is accustomed to.
In this marketplace, probably. I don't think that's uniform across the country. I was talking with a friend of mine who's buying down in Boone, North Carolina. He said 2/3 of the houses there are second houses. He's a cash buyer. He's making offers on houses. He's coming up against tons of cash because it's a lot of people not buying primary residences. I'd say when it comes to primary residences, maybe, but.
So I do a little bit of business in the Outer Banks area, and I've got agents who have a number of clients who are definitely still trying to finance over just cash offers. But I mean,
that's tough.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what I am seeing. I'm seeing a lot of people make cash offers that aren't cash offers.
What's that mean?
So they'll write a term in the contract and send a bank statement saying, I have this money. So it's a cash offer. It's not contingent on the appraisal, but just know I'm going to finance it. Or I reserve the right to finance it because I don't want to burn this liquidity. But it is a cash offer. And as long as it's not contingent on the appraisal and you can require them to perform, then I guess it is what it is.
What do you make of that?
Well, that goes back to, we talked about this several shows and moons ago. There's companies out there. So let's say the individual doesn't support his own cash. There's specifically a company called Ribbon, and I talked to you about me personally through some private investor money, putting a portfolio of investors to go back and make these offers. The market moved so quickly, and I had enough conversations with realtors who said, dude, you've been explaining this to me for 5 minutes. If I don't get it, what if the seller doesn't get it? And it would set up so that I know.
Yeah, I thought you explained it well.
I did. Yes, I know. But I've met with multiple teams, and if the agent I'm not going to be the one. I'll make a call. I reach out to the listing agent. I do all the things to make it as competitive as possible. But that doesn't mean my calls always get answered. So if they get something that is where it's backed by Ribbon or one of these companies. It basically says this is a cash offer. Although the borrower is going to finance, we will close on it, and they pay a 1% fee and to the company once that contract is ratified. So $400,000 house, they're paying $4,000 to this company, and the company's gambling that they never execute the transaction. They make $4,000. Have a nice day, guys, and that's it. So in speaking to some friends of mine, they were like, hell yeah, we want to get in on this. But once you go through and get everything set up, one, is it really advantageous to the client? And two, if the agent doesn't get it and then or if the listing agent doesn't get it, how are they going to present to the client when they've got 10 offers that are all, and they're searching for highest and best? That's where the complication comes in my opinion, and that's why I moved away from it. But the market also moved to where if you're getting less offers, it becomes less advantageous anyways. Like, do you even need to dump does the borrower need to dump another 1% to a company to make this cash offer that they might not even need to win the house?
We'll welcome some viewer and listeners to the program. We have questions already coming in. First, Nicholas Erpy, hello, good morning, my friend. Michelle Scheid, welcome to the program. Agents in Short Pump, welcome to the show. We got Crozet, Lynchburg, and Arlington on the heat map, and some folks in North Carolina on the show. Maybe that's Taylor's influence right there.
Maybe.
So this is from Grayson, who watches in North Downtown, which is interesting. It's one of the questions that you also posed in the email. Jerry, please ask the panel what is driving the market right now.
I know what the people like, baby.
What's that?
I said I know what the people like, baby.
I know, he does. He's got his pulse on the beat, guys, on the street. What is moving the market right now? What's driving the market? Thank you, Grayson, for the question.
Up or down? That's the question. I mean, the up drivers, limited supply, brain drain from big markets. There was a lot of refinances that were constraining that supply as well. There's no new construction, and so it's pushing people into the resale market. I think driving the market down would be increased costs of money, inflation, uncertainty. I think is a big part of it. Even nothing hard numbers, just that intangible uncertainty.
What do you think, Scott?
So up or down is a great perspective. I think days on market you're starting to see from
They're creeping up there. It's still low.
It's still low,
yeah.
but I think part of it is
It's all perception.
higher mortgage rates are part of the situation, but also I think it's sellers who get, and I'll be somewhat mindful of how I say this, who pair themselves with an agent who doesn't do a good job of managing expectations. And while the conversation could be, yes, last year we might have gotten that number, if you want to sell the house and not list the house, this is where we need to be.
It's not the COVID market anymore. That's what you're saying.
It's not the COVID market anymore. And in order to drive the attention to the property that the seller may get, they may get the number, you can't go in and just stick it to the top of the board and hope for the best. But what is truly driving transactions are the same things that I have said would continue to be and talked about earlier in the show: basic human needs and life decisions. That's what's going to, people aren't going to stop being people. They're not going to stop having babies, they're not going to stop dying, they're not going to stop getting divorced, and they're not going to, but they do have somewhat short-term memories. So I'm starting to see people who got in at 3x%, a year, 2 years ago, who are now going, what does it look like if we were to sell our house, and what does this next purchase look like? And I'm like, well, you're probably going to be around 5.5% rate. Does that terrify you? And they're like, can we just see the numbers? And if they can rationalize the cash flow, whether it be from an investor standpoint or a primary purchase, they can get on board with it. And I'm seeing people who are just starting to come out of that and be okay with the situation, knowing that, look, you're not going to be in this mortgage forever. Most likely we're going to refinance you at some point.
Can we talk about, go ahead.
I was saying, can we talk about a big market driver, rent, in this town?
Yeah, what's with all these?
I mean,
like the capture from these apartment buildings that are going up Forest Lakes and that whole area. Like, that's got to be like. What are they getting for those things?
They're making me a believer. They've built some apartment buildings around town where I thought, who's going to live here? And then they have full capacity immediately. It's not only that; the demand for them is so high that the price to rent a house here. I mean, the number one comment I get from first-time home buyers is, I'm lighting money on fire, and it's so expensive it doesn't make sense. You have to have the liquidity to do your down payment ratios or cover your own costs to buy in this marketplace. But I mean, I have personal friends who are having apoplexy about renewing their lease.
Yeah.
Where am I going to move to? I'm going to double my rent as soon as I'm kicked out of this situation that I've been
It's crazy.
joyriding on for a few years. Or, oh, it's time to be an adult. I need to go out on my own, not have roommates or live in this person's basement. And then they look at the rental marketplace and they think, should I buy? People I've talked to 2 years ago and said, you should buy a business decision house. You should buy a small townhouse that's going to cash flow well if you wanted to hold it, or you're going to sell at a profit because it appeals to the everyman in a very expensive town. Oh no, I want to buy a forever house. Now they're priced out of their forever house, and now they're priced out of the rental market. Where do they go? Are they pushed to the surrounding counties? I mean, it's tough. It's constraining the
That's a
cash flows.
great,
That's a great take.
Great take.
That's a very good take right there. That was knowledge right there. To put it in perspective, and I talk about this often on our shows, one of our rentals is at the Villas at Southern Ridge, right down 5th Street Extended, which is the entry point for Southside Charlottesville. $2,000 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. That's roughly 1,100 square feet. And you need first month's rent, last month's rent.
How
and
you get 3
security
bedrooms
deposit.
in 1,100 square feet?
It's pretty tight.
You
They're
got to
not
be
very
liquid
spacious.
to rent that.
Yeah, you have to, it's $6,000 up front to sign the lease. First month's rent, last month's rent, and security deposit, $6K. So that really puts, and that's the entry point of Southside Charlottesville. By Redfields, Villas at Southern Ridge, like a 5-iron away from Wegmans. So like he just said, you have to be liquid to be a tenant now. Think about that. That's stress right there for a lot of people. What's on the mind over there?
I don't know. One of my assistants, she trying to get her out of where she was living in a basement apartment, and they were going to sell the house, so she needed to find a place. And then, she makes good money, and from a just whatever the GPAR, whatever the 3 times income standard, like she didn't meet that. I'm like good grief, like what are we doing here? And it's basically like, you go find whoever you're talking to and we'll figure this out. And finally we got her in somewhere. But at the same time, it's like, if people being priced out of renting is like the craziest thing, like conceptually to me. Like and the fact, and like Taylor said, these apartment complexes that are going up, that like how are they going to fill that? And they're filled to capacity immediately.
How do you work a service job in this town and live within with the gas prices where they are, and thankfully they've gone down. That's cutting into my drive 25,000 miles a year, my bottom line. You got to drive 30 minutes, eat your entire profit margin to work at a job that's going to pay you $45,000.
They're never going to save the money to purchase a home because they're trapped in this rent cycle.
Yeah, we were talking about that, Judah Woodcower, earlier in the week. You guys are exactly right. Can we talk about the word perspective that you utilized? Sure. And the importance of perspective in a market like this? While the DOMs, the days on market, are trending higher, it's still historically incredibly low. And while rates are going up, it's still cheap money. We're under 6%, guys.
Yeah.
The word perspective and what it means to you.
I think my parents were at a 15% interest rate when they bought a house. My dad told me that he kept refinancing with less years and lowering his payment every time throughout the 90s.
That's amazing right there.
It's unreal. It's unreal. It's everything. It's, if you're a buyer, it's understanding I can't be emotionally attached. If you're a seller, it's understanding, to your point, these are unrealized gains that I haven't gotten the last year. Also,
or if you're a Bitcoin holder, there are unrealized losses.
Bitcoin's at 24. It's flirting with 24 right now, and unrealized gains means what? Pay. It's not actual cash until you sell, is what he's talking about.
You might see it on your portfolio online, but it's not in your hand.
Yeah, it might be on your Zestimate, but it's not in your bank account.
When your wealth manager is telling you how much money you're worth,
how
much do you think your house appraises for now? It's like $1 million.
Right. So you may have $1 million home, but it's not $1 million until you sell. Perspective, right. Taylor, keep going.
I mean, here's the thing. All my clients who had a purchasing power of $250,000 when the rate was 2. Now that it's 6, their purchasing power has dropped to 225.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not looking at different houses though. The houses that were listed at 225 4 months ago were selling at 250. Now they might sell at 225 because there's less people in the marketplace. It's the exact same houses. It's just a little more clear where they are.
So the problem with that price point, from what I've seen, is you still have a number of investors who are willing to come in, and then what are we talking about as far as the condition of the property, and as far as actually getting through an appraisal? because the borrower who's coming in at where they're qualified at 225 most likely is going to be government in some way, where there's FHA, VA, it's going to, and even a conventional appraisal, like I had an agent go, well, I've never heard of this before in a conventional appraisal. I said, well, they do have rules where, like, if you're standing inside of the house and if you look up, you shouldn't be able to see the sky if there's not an actual light there. Like, those are, the house needs to be livable. But that's the sort of stuff that was going on through the COVID phase.
Are you seeing, so we talked about this earlier in the week, the investor is now making up roughly 1 in 4 deals nationally in the market. Not sure that metric locally, but nationally the investor is 1 in 4, where previously, pre-COVID, it was 1 in 10. Yeah. So the investor is starting to capture a lot more share of the market, which is causing this inventory pinch, especially for first-time home buyers with limited liquidity. Investors and how you're seeing them influence the market. We had a comment a couple weeks ago on your show, Scott, from one of your peers in the lending business, Michael Buchensky, of how he was talking about how private equity money was coming in and buying a $22 million, essentially a neighborhood in Waynesboro. And he was helping finance that. And he's starting to see the investors really on that side of the mountain, because the price points are a little bit lower, but the rents are still going up.
That's
chomping up the inventory.
That's to my point. Like, that low price point is where you're still very investor competitive.
Because you have margin.
And they're not there as much in that $400,000 to $600,000 range. They're just not. But that $400,000 to $600,000 range is still generating cash offers, which is like where, at some point the money spigot runs out. Like, we've seen so much cash in the last 24 months, which is kind of crazy. But a lot of it's coming from people transitioning from one area to another with a sold house, and they got to rent back, so they had time to go out and make a decision. But
think about how many people did really well during COVID. I mean, the last 2 years have been a pretty significant wealth transfer in the country.
Oh. Hey, I mean, is there like an inflation thing that's going on with that?
Yeah.
That as well. These people have come in with cash. They've gone out and bought a bunch of Rolexes, and they bought a bunch of houses.
Michelle has this for you guys. Thank you for saying this, fellas. Rates are not terrible. The 3% and 2.5% were amazing, but under 6% is not historically high at all. It's all about perspective. This is coming in from Leslie, who is watching in Richmond, and she says, for the panel, do you expect the market to continue to cool with people returning from vacation in the fall, or will we see a pickup in business in the final quarters of the year? Scott, you want to start with that one?
Yeah, rates are not historically high. And I think that, and I've continued to say this, I said they would go higher than they were forecast significantly. They did. And I think this really turns into, as mentioned earlier, this balance between what are we really betting against, inflation or recession. And, the last few days have been inflation, not recession, and that everything's going to, we're going to get a softer landing. But this is like the third time this year we've heard that. So until the Fed gets its arms around things from a rate perspective, we're going to continue to creep higher. I don't think we're there yet. I've said that I drank the Kool-Aid last time and said when we were at 3% 10-year that we were at the ceiling. We saw a little drawdown, and I was like, oh, look, I'm probably right. And I was way wrong. So the other half of the question, as far as what's driving...
Will the market cool?
Will the market
this
cool?
fall, or will it pick up?
I think we're going to see more inventory come on in the fall. I'm 100% adamant about that. It's just it's human behavior does not change, and that is a time where while there's still leaves on the trees, if there's any intent, good agents who've been having conversations with their clients about selling or said, let's get some pictures, let's get all these things, that's a big driver of that. Also, if you want to sell, do you want to do it before Thanksgiving and Christmas and keep people out of your house? That just by time of year alone, we're going to see more houses go on market.
Thoughts, Taylor?
I have listings in the queue for the fall. I do. What is cooling? I mean, we've been the hottest market ever. Is cooling normal again?
Yeah, can we compare to like 2019, 2018? Because if we do, we're kind of right. We're right. We're not significantly different.
I think you'll see some houses still sell in a weekend with 5 offers. I think you'll see other houses have to take a little longer. You'll see buyers having the power dynamic there. It's case by case. These things aren't created equal.
Is the luxury market softening? Is the jumbo market softening? I'm starting to see I can talk specifics. You don't necessarily have to talk specifics neighborhood, Taylor. I'm starting to see the Glenmores of the world cool a little bit with inventory. I mean, pre-COVID, this inventory, that's where I live, pre-COVID, the inventory in that particular neighborhood stayed stagnant and was DOMs that were talking like a year plus, 200 days plus.
Yeah.
During COVID, these homes were moving like just everything else, 24 hours, 36 hours. Now you're starting to look at the MLS and you're starting to see these listings stay on the market a little bit longer. Is luxury cooling? Is jumbo cooling? And what is luxury now? What is luxury price point?
That's a good question. I mean, I had a
question.
pretty extensive conversation with a listing agent in Warrenton yesterday. She's got a house in for sale in North Carolina in a neighborhood that I'm familiar with there, and they got it under contract like during our conversation. I was like, good luck from Scott. And she's kind of your $600 to $1.5 million, like that's her price point. And she's starting to see less cash, but as far as the market softening, she's still very busy.
Yeah. Taylor?
We might see a cooling by location. I mean, I don't expect North Downtown to cool. How many houses are there?
Right.
How many people want them?
It's kind of like that question that our conversation I have with a borrower. If you like it, if you love it, everybody loves it. So that the house and the neighborhood dependent is going to continue to drive activity. There's just not enough inventory out there for there not to be for certain properties, which is why when having a conversation going, well, what if we were to go a little further out or what if we took something off the list that you could add in later? Like those are the conversations that you start having with people to make them more competitive. But to the point of it softening, like neighborhood dependent, I think no. Like from the conversations that I've been having anyways.
Your homie Jon Snow giving you some props, and no, it's not Jon Snow from Game of Thrones. It's Scott Morris's friend, Jon Snow, watching the program.
Jon
here.
Snow works for me.
Yeah, he's giving you some props right now. This question is coming in from Brian. Have contingencies returned? Have home inspections returned? And have closing costs returned to deals? We're in the market now and looking, and we're very curious about this.
Property specific.
Property specifics. Explain what that means.
I have a property right now that is under contract. I have a buyer. It's something that requires a ton of liquid capital investment immediately. It's not really habitable. It's an investment play. In that property, yes, inspections, 100 times. If it's $200,000 in Lake Monticello, you're probably going to get multiple offers there because that just doesn't exist anymore, which hurts my heart and it creates difficulty. But if you have 10 people in a marketplace for one house, you're probably going to see a waived inspection. If you're starting to look in neighborhoods where the supply is increasing or the market segment is decreasing, demand market segment's decreasing, you're starting to see a transition of power. Yes. The longer you can, take a look, ask your agent, oh, I'm interested in neighborhood X, Y, and Z. What's the average days on market looking like there? What are the price points looking like there? Do you have an idea of what the demand segment looks like there? Let's try an offer with this and see how it reacts. Tons of people, they just don't believe you the first time.
We're gonna take a clip of this and I'm gonna send it to every buyer I have for questions to ask your agents.
Yeah, dude's dropping knowledge right here. I love your even-keeledness. I can see why in this emotional roller coaster ride, arguably the most important decision besides who you marry, how you would be an asset to your clients.
Oh, I appreciate that.
Because you strike me as the same person every day. And that's what people want is consistency from colleagues, especially the people they're doing business with.
Well, if I'm panicking, I didn't realize how stressful this was, and I'd done it hundreds of times until I did it myself. And
for yourself personally?
Yeah, and then I was stressed out, and I didn't buy in this market. So I understand, I'm about to drop $300,000, and that's just my down payment on an investment that's going to cost me $800,000. I'm going to be stressed out about it. I look at the fear in people's eyes, and honestly, I feel like a therapist sometimes more than a real estate agent. People call me, they cry on the phone. I've watched people have nervous breakdowns. I've watched people rescind offers when they won them because the gravity of the situation, it becomes very real. If I'm showing any kind of stress in the situation, then my client's going to feed off of my energy and feed off of how I'm feeling. I'm not stressed about the situation. It is what it is. It's dollars and cents. I'm not going to jerk you around. If you believe me, if you trust me, then I want your second transaction. I'm not here to just get paid the first time. I want you to come back to me in 3 years when you want to sell that house. And I don't want to dig myself a hole and I can't sell it for you and then get yelled at in 3 years either.
No, nicely said. I love this guy right here. Scott, thoughts on this?
100% with until you're going through it. And having some more knowledge, like about when you know how the sausage is made, like there's certain things like where I never, in my first purchase, I was kind of nonchalant. It was like, oh, well, whatever. And my wife she's like, so what if they're closing a week later? I was like, I'm like, you don't get it. She's like, doesn't that happen all the time? I was like, not to me. And I had on a personal purchase, I was told they couldn't get an appraisal out because of the location of the property for like 4 weeks. And I was like, why don't you get me on the phone with the AMC and I bet we can remedy this, like losing my mind. But yeah, it's a super emotional process for most people. And it's a purchase that they may only make once or twice in their life. So if they don't have trusted advisors, people who are genuinely care and looking out for their well-being, or who don't respond, or who overly emotional in certain situations, it can definitely be a drawdown for the buyer.
How about this one for you guys? Sure. And folks, the viewers and listeners watching the show, Carol Thorpe, welcome to the show. We've dubbed her the Queen of Jack Jewett. You guys can offer questions to the panel, to Scott and to Taylor, and really shape the discussion. Just put your comments in the feed. I'll relay it live on air. This comment: I am curious as to how the market will adjust. Generally, rates go up and prices go down. Not now. Do you think this will correct itself, or equity in properties will hold with this hint of an upcoming recession combined with rates climbing? You want to touch on that one, Taylor?
Sure. The last few years, the marketplace didn't know where the marketplace was. I mean, I was having some appraisal issues because appraisers couldn't justify the market. You'd have 15 offers and it wouldn't appraise. Because, well, I'm pulling 6 months comps ago. Okay, well, your comp from a month ago is not a relevant comp anymore. Okay, it may not be in this neighborhood, but here's 4 things in the city limits that are similar size, quality, construction, age, that are selling at this. There's a price floor now. Now that the market has kind of discovered, what I'm seeing is that the market's found a new price floor. We're not seeing $100,000 over the asking price. We're seeing a leveling. We're looking for a 1-to-1. You have one buyer for one property at the asking price. That's a point of equilibrium. We're still not at a point of equilibrium. If we reached a point of equilibrium, then we had a deficit on the demand side, then maybe the prices go down. Even with the increased rate activity, we're not at a point of equilibrium yet. What I'm seeing instead of a price softening and people going underwater in all of their properties is you're not getting 10% over ask anymore on every property. I think that's an important thing, is that every property was getting 10% over ask. Now it's 10% over ask on select properties. It's select properties at the asking price. And then you have some agents who have been a little too aspirational with their pricing, assuming that the rules of the game that applied 3 months ago came in. They listed it above what the market probably should deem, and you're starting to accumulate some days on market. Or the houses just aren't as nice, and now the market's responding to the fact that you're listing a house that's not worth multiple offers, which is what would have happened in years past. So in my estimation right now, we're just seeing a leveling off of a new price floor, and unless things get catastrophic, we're probably just seeing a new normal of pricing and not having this super aggressive, super competitive 10% over on everything, because the market has found its new its new North Star, essentially.
Scott?
I'll play the headline game with this one. With mortgage applications down to a 22-year low, and
That was today's headline.
And also, new construction starts at a low. You're relying on existing home listings to carry inventory. So while all of these things are down, there's also a smaller pool of inventory, which is allowing home prices to continue to not go up at 10% month over month and all. I mean, just which was unsustainable. I mean, the year over year gains that we saw, these unrealized gains for some people, I don't think that we come back from, because unless there's an actual catalyst to collapse the market, which just does not seem to be there.
That's Kelsey's question. Is this a bubble? I'm sure you guys get this question.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think it's a peak, not a bubble. And what I mean by that is we see a plateau from here forward. Like we see a continual creep. There's some continued gain in valuation. There's continued appreciation, but that's through a more balanced market and not this dip of insanity with essentially free money, and it's just not sustainable. What we went through was just not sustainable. I think certain markets will have a pullback. Sun Belt, Arizona, Florida, Texas, parts of California, but they're different markets than what I consider us to be here in the Charlottesville, Northern Virginia corridor, and a lot of that is based on job opportunity and socioeconomic situations. Like we have the university and government funding that is not going to stop paying people. Well, if we were supported by just big warehouse manufacturing corporations, we'd get to a supply gut. They lay people off. We don't see those things happen here in the same way that other parts of the country do.
Okay, so this is a follow-up question. Then I want your take on this.
Sure.
I asked Jim Duncan this question. He's the Ness partner.
Sure.
He was sitting right here, and he didn't like my question.
Okay.
I said, is Charlottesville recession-proof? Told me never to ask that question again. So I'll rephrase it. How insulated is the Charlottesville market to recessions? I should have probably asked it that way as opposed to saying, is Charlottesville recession-proof? And then I'll follow that up and throw this to you. Is there a bubble on the horizon?
Sure. I think it's relatively insulated compared to markets with more transient work. I mean, there's a lot of old money here, a lot of retiree money, a lot of, like you said, doctors are still going to get paid at the hospital. The government's writing blank checks for student loans right now to universities who are dictating whatever funding they would like to have, and ergo, those jobs are not going away at the university.
You got the data science school close to opening, $125 million world-class facility on the near horizon.
Yeah. NGIC, or the DIA, is it DIA?
Buffalo Group,
North.
there's big, they run a lot of intel out of there, and those guys, we're not, as long as America is engaging in the world.
Trying to maintain its place as the world power.
Those guys
Buffalo Group is going to be doing all right.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's what he's saying right there. Keep going, Taylor.
Yeah, I think this, maybe surrounding counties would be more susceptible to these market factors. Or, when I drive down to see my parents in North Carolina, 29 South, I think you see on balance a higher percentage of, or a higher tolerance, or a less of a tolerance to recessions down the 29 corridor, where Danville, somewhere like that, where it's a lot of these jobs that are, once a recession comes, people are losing their job. City of Charlottesville doesn't seem to be that case. It's not to say that there won't be something that occurs, but not to the level of
Look
somewhere
at
like
the
that.
economic driver Liberty is for Lynchburg.
Yeah.
So with the fact that Charlottesville has multiple sources of these drivers, not just the university, is it recession-proof? No, but it's recession resistant. To about 100 meters.
Very nicely said. I'm going to steal this. Judah like that over there. We got a smirk out of Judah. That says it's a good joke right there. I'm going to steal that from Scott Morris. Please remind me of that. I will give you credit every time I use that moving forward. This is from Kevin Yancey, who's watching in Waynesboro. So we should ask, Kevin, I'll get your question here in a matter of moments. The question he has for you, so you can start thinking answers, do you see a full point increase coming or another 3/4 from the Fed? It's hard to tell, but before we go,
75 bips all day long.
Okay, you're saying 75? Okay. He's in Waynesboro. Is the Waynesboro market, are you nervous about the other side of the mountain at all?
Not
Anyone?
really.
No? You're not?
Really. The Waynesboro market has done very well with the hyper rapid inflation in the Charlottesville area. 4 years ago, I'd go to Waynesboro and sell somebody a house for $120,000, and I can't.
Unless you're going to Craigsville or something like out in the, like.
It doesn't exist anymore, the 120 house.
It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's really located quite nicely between Charlottesville, Lexington, Harrisonburg. It's a bedroom community for those three places where there's universities.
I mean, Buckingham used to have just on the other side of the bridge, used to have $140,000 homes that you could.
Cheaper than that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking out of Buckingham, yeah. But they've brought some industry over there, and it's really nicely positioned between those three places as a point. I think Augusta County is kind of a frontier market, and I don't know where the prices can go from here, but they've seen some significant price increases in the last few years, to the point where really everywhere in Charlottesville has, but that's located nicely.
What do you make of that, Scott? Your thoughts?
I mean, it's a hub, and it's 6481 interchange, and 30 minutes from Charlottesville, 30 minutes from Harrisonburg. I mean, you've got EMU, Eastern Mennonite University. You've got multiple feeders for the community. So it's only a matter of time, and it 20 years ago is when the development really took off there, and we're starting to kind of see that more and more now. And there's more. They're set up for continued growth, politically also. I think more so than here. And Stanton's like a kitschy. I love Culpeper, but Stanton's not significantly different from like a little downtown area. They got some nice restaurants, cute.
Stanton's great.
Yeah, it's a cool area.
New construction challenges. We talk about this often on the show. 24% the cost of a new home in Albemarle County is red tape. Not bricks, not doors, not stainless steel, not granite, but paperwork is 24% the cost of new construction. Taylor, new construction challenges. The home builder right now has his or her back against the wall, undoubtedly.
Yeah. Time, number one, like you said, red tape. I have multiple clients who are seeing 6 to 8 month delays on their homes. And that includes, now you have to extend the lease, add a price premium. There's really no end in sight. These 6 to month delays are, in some cases, concrete. In some cases, it's just a number that's being kicked out until we have a more concrete number. But bureaucratic, getting the county to approve things is, from my discussions with builder representatives, is the worst part. And then sometimes they'll just randomly not be able to get something. Oh, our door handles are on back order for 6 weeks, and that's cutting us down. But the majority of the timing right now and the problems with it.
Well, when are we going to have an answer? In about 2 weeks. That's what we said 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Yeah. It's tough. And that's informing a lot of the resale market. Is this just lack of that silo or lack of that half? I traditionally have sold tons of new construction. I have a great working relationship with new construction companies in town. My conversations with them are, can you give me an idea of when I can give my client an idea of when the house they have under contract is going to be delivered to them now? And that's not the fault of the builder, by the way.
Oh, no, it's not the fault.
I don't want to insinuate them throwing them under the bus, because they're excellent and great communicators, especially the local ones. But we need some solutions in the county office.
So like the big NBR, Ryan Homes, what I'm starting to see like online and through various groups and private messages is all like it went from "we don't need you" to to agents and mortgage companies to now we're paying bonuses, like these pluses and all the things to get people back on board.
I'm seeing gas cards utilized to get people at open houses now. Gift cards are coming back. These tactics that were 2018, 2019 tactics are coming back to drive engagement. Literally, I mean, I get the newsletters from the agents, come to the open house, win a gas card.
Right.
Thoughts on this?
I think it's just going to become more commonplace. To your point earlier about would you rather be working with buyers or sellers, or and it's all 300 sellers. It was easy. You're kicking it out. There was no investment or work done on the listing side. You're going to start to see people marketing. I think I got an email from my broker that said start to market like it's 2010 again.
What's that mean?
It's just,
This is Keith Davis?
Keith Davis.
Yeah. Love you, Keith Davis.
Great guy.
Yeah.
But, when you're in a seller's market like you had, I'm just going to throw it online. It will sell. Now I've got to actually start getting the word out. I got to be a differentiator in the marketplace. I got to be a differentiator in the marketplace. I've got to get eyeballs. My photos have to be better. I've got to hold my open houses. I've got to drive people in. I'm going to have to start investing some of the revenue from previous sales into my new listings. My bottom line is going to hurt on that. You're going to start to see agents start to leverage their experience more. You might start to see some agents fall out of the market. I mean, I think, what is the number of agents in this?
A little over 1,200.
1,200?
Yeah.
How many of those people do you actually know the name of?
Not
100
many.
of them? It's
Yeah.
incredibly normally distributed, right?
They normally say 15% of the agents do 90% of the business.
Yeah, it's a distribution curve. You're going to lose 5% a year because they're not making enough money to stay in.
They're also getting up there in age in the
Well,
car roster.
that's also going to happen, yeah.
I mean, you are, frankly, you may be one of the youngest ones in car. How old are you?
30.
Yeah, you're one of the
30.
youngest ones in car. I mean, straight up.
Probably, yeah. Which is a shame,
It is a shame.
It's a shame.
It's not just here.
No, this is national. It's a national trend. Yeah.
The barriers to anyone who's listening who's considering being a real estate agent, don't do it because I don't want you taking my market share. but the barriers to entry are so low in Virginia to becoming a real estate agent. And this is just a statement of fact. It's not anything, not any haughtiness. I'm significantly overqualified for the job. You have to be 18 years old with a high school diploma and take a 60-hour online class. That's it. Now,
This dude's got 2 degrees, UNC and UVA.
yeah, now you're not going to get a doctor at UVA to probably let you list his house as an 18-year-old with no world experience, but you can get a real estate license and go attach yourself to somebody who knows what they're talking about for a few years in sort of an apprenticeship, run around, do their dirty work. They'll hand off some difficult clients for you. You'll learn your lessons, get your feet in the marketplace, and then you could be making a good living if you know what you're doing by the time you're 25. The barriers to entry are so low. There's no reason why it's not a job for somebody that's 30 years old.
Who wants to work? So I had a
That's a good point too, when they're printing
conversation
money.
with someone in the car business who he's about to a couple years from retirement, and we talk about I got somebody who wanted to come do this and just what challenges they may face, that sort of thing, and accompanied with people who, and this is not against, I spent a long time in the car business. This is not against anybody who ends up selling somewhere, but typically that wasn't like their goal as a child. That wasn't their target career path. But you can find a high level of success. I mean, I know a lot of people who work on the sales floor in dealerships in Charlottesville who make between $160,000 and $180,000 a year. That's a real life accomplishable thing. And but the level of effort to get to that point, the barrier of entry is how much are you willing to outwork everyone else, and that's that's real estate in the mortgage world. I had somebody call me today saying she wants to be a mortgage loan originator, and I said, okay, cool. What makes you think that this is for you right now? Like, tell me why. Like, I need the why, because if you're not willing to go out and work to the point of exhaustion, call people and put yourselves in front of people over and over again with absolute failure as a constant, if you cannot overcome that mentally, you will never be successful.
And your show, a few months ago, we had Valerie Easter on the show. and she talked about, she's an agent as well, her best year where she was making bank. I mean, she straight up said she was making bank in her best year. She said it was one of her least enjoyable years of her life, just because the grind consumed her so much. Of working constantly every weekend. I'm curious of what your schedule looks like as an agent, and I'm also curious of how your book of business or how your business over the course of 5 years has progressed. Like, what was it like year one, and what is it like now, and what's your day-to-day like, your weekly hour workload like?
Yeah, there's this beautiful half-truth in real estate that you make your own hours. And the true part of that is I'm not shackled to a desk and have to ask for permission to go to the bathroom. If I need to go pick up some golf balls from Dick's Sporting Goods at 3 p.m. and I've got a 30-minute window, I can go out there. But I can go out there at 3 because I'm going to be working until 8. So this spring, I think I pulled a few weeks of 9 to 1 a.m. and you just don't have a choice. You are meeting with clients, and then you're reaching your deadlines paperwork-wise. If you wake up on Monday morning and you have no problems, there's going to be a problem on your desk by 11 because someone's not going to appraise.
And are you staying in front of your marketing so that once you get through all this work, is there more work in the future?
Right, exactly right. So it's, right now, the summer is always a little lighter. I'm still working all the time. It's a pain point to go out of town. I have to go to a wedding this weekend, and it's so stressful to leave because if something comes up, you have a client who has one house a month coming on, you don't want to be gone when that one house comes on. But you work a lot. You have to meet the deadlines. My year one is a learning experience. It's tough. I think most agents lose money in year one. That's why it's tough. You have to have a little bit of cash reserves and have some perspective. That's why I said it's a good idea if someone will pay you a salary, or they're so busy they'll hand you leads to work, and you have a little safer of a way to learn the business. That's a great way to get in. But a lot of the people that were working with year one, borderline qualifying, low budgets, lots of weekend driving, 45 minutes one direction to take a look at something. Now if you do right by your clients, they come back to you. Now I have repeat business. I have investor clients who buy multiple things per year. People selling, people buying. Lender partners handing off people that they want someone to do a good job with, not just a token, let me just shoot this across the bow so I stay relevant. It may not close. Now people will say, oh, this is my $800,000 client who I need to maintain a good relationship with. I think that you'll do a good job of keeping my reputation good with that client. So, about 50% growth year over year in volume and close numbers. So it builds if you do a good job and you keep it in perspective from that tough time at the beginning.
What do you think, Scott?
All those things. In fact, from the call from the young lady who said, "Hey, I want to do this," it's like that's like a rehash of this morning. Like, what do you need for your family? What's the number that you have to make? Because I don't think that you're going to hit that in your first year. Just full disclosure, you're going to I take you on from the moment that you're licensed and you do everything I tell you to do, you're probably going to go 3 months before you close your first loan. Mm-hmm. And then you can't go, it's not autopilot, I've got this figured out. Like, are you continuing to create the relationships for that to continue? And what I mean by that is, for somebody starting out on my side of the business, they need to meet at a minimum 150 realtors face to face in their first year. That is to put them in position to succeed. If they're not willing to do that, then they should probably find something else to do. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I mean that in order to create the volume of business to be successful, and you're going to go meet even what we do marketing to our clients. You could meet 10 people and only 3 choose to work with you. And if you've dealt with any kind of lead generation product, you'll get 20 people and close one of them. That is a very real number. And this is the same concept, but with business partners. Like if you're looking for an insurance person or realtor partners, whomever it is, you've got to go see an exhausting amount of human beings in order to find who do you want to work with, who do you trust, who do you like, do they like and trust you, and do they generate a level of business that it makes the relationship work for everybody. And explaining this to someone who's calling me out of the blue, like literally shot me a Facebook message, hey, you got a few minutes for a call? Yeah. And she's like, I want to do this. I'm like, who found you? Right now is probably, I would say, a little bit of a challenging time. Loan Depot just laid off 2,000 employees. Better is out of business.
Redfin's laying off employees.
Redfin's laying off employees. Sprout.
Zillow's laying off employees.
Yeah. So my question to you is, how hard do you think you have to work to make this work for you? And if you're willing to do that, then buckle up, let's go. But if there's any sense of hesitancy, this is
not the career for you.
We have an idea that things shouldn't be hard anymore. The responsibility is...
we could do a whole...
responsibility is meaning and privilege, and you should back yourself. And you have to. You have to take that burden on to be successful. And that's what makes it worth it in the end.
Well said. Dude, this guy's made for the talk show. John Blair is watching in Stanton. More questions coming in. Good Lord, we hour and 10 minutes. You guys are crushing it right now. How about this one from Yancey? He says, realtors should not sleep on Augusta County. It's the second largest landmass county in Virginia. And when Augusta County is still going to have land and an opportunity to develop when other counties around here are maxed out. That's a good take right there from Yancey. Katie Pearl is watching. She's a Keller Williams agent. When in real estate, you get to pick which 60 hours a week you work, but you're still working 60 hours a week.
I like that, at least.
Very well said, Katie Pearl, a talented agent for KW and a mother of 5. Wow. While being a kick-ass agent right there. So what's the luxury market? People are asking us to get back to that topic. This has come up on previous shows. We had an agent sit in Scott's chair 90 days ago, 120 days ago, that said $1 million is no longer the luxury market.
That's true.
You buy that?
I kind of buy that, yeah.
Okay, talk to me about that.
There's neighborhoods in town that are just, it's a 5,000 square foot house, but it's on 1/10 of an acre. That's $1 million. And it's nice, but it's 3 years ago, that was $700,000. Very nice homes, incredibly well constructed. But I find that the kinds of homes that are $1 million are sort of the expectation until you have a discussion with your client about what the market actually looks like. Those are the expectation that people think they're going to be buying. People from Northern Virginia come down here and get sticker shock all the time because they think that they're going to sell their townhouse up there and come buy 3 times the house. It's just not happening. But yeah, up in Fontana, they have Evergreen's got some buildings up there.
Fontana Pantops?
Pantops?
Yeah.
It's $1 million to get in there. Not in Fontana, the old one, but there's some neighborhoods up behind, a couple, and you're looking at $1 million now, and they're nice homes, but you're not living in a castle. You're not living in Farmington, and you might have 1/10 of an acre. And I would be happy living there. Don't get me wrong, but it's not that exclusivity for that budget anymore. But let's put it in perspective here. There's townhouses that are $600,000 in town.
The C&O row houses are $1.2 million plus.
Two. Best views in town, though. Mm-hmm. I will say the best
Where
views
is this?
in town.
The C&O row houses between Beer Run and Market Street.
Yeah.
That strip of, I guess, are they called brownstone? Would you call them a brownstone, a row house?
That's what they're going for.
Yeah, $1.2 million entry, 4 levels, rooftop decks, sweet views of Carter's Mountain, walking
awesome.
Distance everywhere. They are awesome. They're
awesome.
Massive, and they're relatively newish.
They're probably 3 years old in some
Yeah,
cases.
yeah.
And they have an elevator, and the views are panoramic. You can see pantops like you've never seen it before. But
You've seen them nighttime?
I've been in, yeah. But it's we're talking. One of them traded at $2 million this year.
Yeah.
And it's on the railroad tracks.
Right. Directly across from
Directly, and just like that, there's a condo building across the street from them, also on the railroad tracks.
I'm too much of a redneck to.
You like your farmette.
Yeah.
He likes his chickens. He likes his chickens and his roosters and his animals. And I'll tell you what, if you follow Scott Morris on Facebook, you'll see the most adorable photos of his children interacting on the farm. I mean, you're giving him a phenomenal life, your family, with that farmette. I mean, $2 million for guys, an attached piece of property. Now, granted, the location is phenomenal. The finishes are phenomenal. The houses are, the row houses are amazing.
Great builder too, Evergreen.
Yeah.
Shout out. Yeah.
$2 million. So luxury is
I'm not. I can't answer that question.
$1.4 million.
Honestly.
Are we?
Depends on where you are, as
That's
well.
true. That's true.
And what's your idea of luxury? Like, I don't know. I don't know. I think that's a question more for Taylor than Scott.
It's highly subjective.
Yeah.
But I think people, when they think of $1 million, they're thinking of, and I'm not saying rightly, but they may be thinking of living in Ivy, and that's just not the case.
So I will say this. So there's a house in Culpeper that recently traded that we considered buying 7 years ago. It's a luxury property. It was $1 million at the time, and it just sold for 2.2.
Dang. Nice appreciation.
Nice appreciation.
2x plus in 7 years?
Yeah.
Damn.
And so I guess when you look at those things, but even then, again, at the time, I was like, I don't know that it was not a right fit for what I was looking for. And even though I was like, gosh, we should have done that, and then we, do this. But at the same time, it's like, it's still not what I personally was looking for, which is why I just don't think that's not a question that, I get it. But it depends on where. So
Luxury is relative.
Luxury is relative. Yeah. And luxury, so let's say that I think let's say there was an area in that Stanton area where 1 million still puts you on a 5-acre house with your McMansion, that's your luxury property. Like over there, that might be it. Where here is 1.6, depending on where you're looking to be. Then you go back to the original houses in Glenmore, where the old section, those were considered luxury homes at the time, and now it's a downsize for somebody who's got that money and wants to live in that neighborhood. I don't know. So I think that question has a lot to do with perspective and personal opinion.
So guys, 11:30 from a time standpoint here. We have more questions coming in. You guys are doing fantastic. Taylor, you're very good here. So I'll do, he's a sports guy. You guys are both sports guys.
Yeah.
We'll do a little around the horn PTI rapid style here.
Okay.
So we can get as many of these in as possible. This is coming in from Steven. He says, what is the entry price point for City of Charlottesville, Albemarle County? Is it all now with a 4 in front of it if it's decent, if it's in decent shape?
You're talking attached or detached?
I think he's talking detached.
Yeah, definitely 4.
I mean, does it have a 5? City of Charlottesville may have a 5.
You can buy my house under 5, but it's
Taylor's selling his house right now.
Anybody out there who wants to offer me 5? It's straight out of 1965.
Is it City of Charlottesville?
City of Charlottesville.
Dang.
Yeah, but
You had it for 2 years, so you don't get the capital gains exposure?
Yeah.
You have. There you go.
Yeah. But you're going to have to put in. It needs a full reno. Hardwood floors come with it.
So are you saying that might be the entry price point, single family detached in the
I've
city?
I've got a brick rancher. It's
Which neighborhood, can I ask?
It's on it's technically in Greenbrier, but it's not.
Okay, Greenbrier's legit.
They try to claim us, but it's on an offshoot road. Brick rancher at the extent of the city limits. I think I might be the last guy in the city. Technically 1,800 square feet, but some of that's in the basement. And not really, I have a ping pong table down there. So really the livable space is about 1,200 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath. It's in the 4s. So closer to the university you get, the more expensive that gets for the same amount of money. You could find, I sold an 800 square foot house, or it might have been 1,100. I think it was 900 square feet in Belmont for like high 3s this year. And that's.
So that ain't TLC then, at high 3s.
It was like 2 bed, 1 bath.
Belmont's become such an anomaly.
Anomaly, yeah.
The first one, the place that sold just over the old Spud Nuts, was like the first one to crack $1 million, and then it's been like gangbusters since.
Yeah. Did the Belmont house you reference, it needed TLC at the high 3s?
All of these things need modernization. So eminently habitable, shows well, but we're talking tired floors, Formica countertops, laundry in the kitchen, 2 bedrooms, bathroom from 1975, maybe earlier.
It's got a pink toilet.
Not falling apart at all. In good, well cared for, but not that $1 million house in Fontana.
His follow-up question is entry price point attached. You get something. I know the villas market well. The Villa Southern Ridge, you get 210. You got a condo, 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
So we're talking city limits, right?
Yeah, if you go city, Villas is Albemarle County, so maybe that doesn't fit the city.
Yeah, the Albemarle County in the mid to high threes, depending on where you're.
Condos and more towards townhouses.
Non-warrantable, is that why? The condo, is that why you're saying stay away?
There's multiple.
The financing is more difficult for a
Yeah.
condo because you don't own the land, it's non-warrantable is what he's referencing.
There's some townhouses in Hollymead and maybe down Avon Street that are in like the 350 minimum plus. They're probably a little higher now. Pavilions at Pantops.
That's
would be
Averitte.
Which
Great.
were 285, which was like this realistic entry point, but now we're 350.
Pavilions at Pantops.
Those are nice.
The low side,
Yeah.
the Ryan side.
That's Ryan Holmes.
Ryan Holmes. They used to be.
Those are nice.
Mid twos 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Really nice.
Some have garages.
Some have garage. Some have 2-car detached with a little yard between.
Yep.
You could go mid twos 2 years ago. I think you're in the 3s there now. But that's not city. But I mean, it's in North Carolina it would be city, where the city would just keep annexing it. But it's not city, but it's city adjacent. It's what I would call the metro.
That's like
now.
a lot of Albemarle is,
Yeah.
yeah.
What do you say to the first-time home buyer?
Think with your head. That's the most succinct way that I could put it. For example, I think I might have said this story earlier, but I'll reiterate it. I have a friend who called me 2 years ago and said, I want to buy this house. That's my favorite house. I want to put 20% down. I said, well, you live alone and you want a 5-bedroom house with a yard and you want to put 20% down, which you can't do. Oh, I'll just wait. I said, you need to think with the head, buy a townhouse in the city. You're not going to love it. You don't love where you're living now. You're renting an apartment. You're going to move in 2 years regardless. You might as well have some ownership stake in it. They've missed the boat on that now. They called me last week and said, the rent is so high, I'm burning money. I said, the head decision has changed. You probably should just sit and continue to accumulate capital because you still want that forever home. They still won't listen to me. They still want the forever home, and now that's become even more out of reach. If you're a first-time home buyer, if you're in your mid-20s, under 30, I would probably buy a townhouse just outside of the city limits. Try to identify what I would be a frontier market. A really good area is Hollymead area because we're moving toward DC. People are moving down DC. That 29 pipeline is getting developed. There's some nice townhouse communities up there where you can get your money in and it seems to grow.
Great take, dude. You brought a winner here.
Age-old axiom. When's the best time to buy a house or plant a tree? Yesterday.
Right?
Yeah.
Give us a final thought to get out of here.
I don't think all the turbulence that we've experienced is over. And stick to your trusted advisors. When someone's offering you advice because they do it every day versus your brother, sister's, husband's cousin, take it for what it's worth. You can tell if the people working with you truly care about you from the conversations that you have, and make head-based decisions based off of that, and trust the people that you work with, and trust that they're going to take care of you.
Scott Morris, guys, Ross Mortgage, presenting sponsor of the show, Ross Mortgage and Scott Morris. You can find him on every social media platform possible. He picks up the phone and he returns messages.
On TikTok, I try to, I want to do more.
How's your TikTok game?
I came up with like a list of like 20 things that I do topics on, and then I get into like the video editor, and I'm like, I'm not doing this.
It's so hard. That's why we're in business. The advertising agency, we do it for them. It's so hard. Creating content is not easy. Closing thoughts, Taylor, for everybody watching the show.
Scrutinize your trusted advisors. 1,400 real estate agents in Charlottesville. Vet them. Vet your lender. Ask the difficult questions. Make sure they're creating value for you. Think with your head over your heart. If you're a first-time home buyer, determine where you are in the marketplace and what you're looking at is in the marketplace, and make your decision on those bases.
I love it. I hope you come back. It was great.
I'd love to come back.
Yeah, you were excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for this.
Thank you.
Yeah, Scott put the
As always.
round table together. Scott Morris, Ross Mortgage guys. Taylor crushed it. Judah Wickhauer is our director. This is Real Talk with Keith Smith. You can find all the shows archived online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. The I Love Seville show is up in 54 minutes, and at 12:30 we're going to showcase the Greenberry's Coffee Company evolution from a storefront in Barracks Road to a global brand with locations in Saudi Arabia, Japan, and coming to Europe. So we'll kind of do the flip book of this Charlottesville-based brand, the longest running coffee distiller in Charlottesville history, today at 12:30 with the CEO, Sean Simmons, the founder of the company. Judah, thank you. Guys, we'll catch up with you in 54 minutes. Take care. Excellent work, dude.
Thank you.
Crushed it.
Thank you.
We're going to get a quick photo of you.
Sure.
Taylor, you were